Heather McLaren in Tucson, Arizona with your Friday update. It's actually 4th of July. I'm at an open house right now. It's been hit or miss, but the hit has been slammed. We even ended up getting patriotic Krispy Kremes to satisfy the hordes of masses coming out on their way to get holiday supplies. So it's been really busy. If you're familiar at all with the Tucson market, you know what a hot market is right now. Under 250, it's really hot. Under 150, it's hard to find move-in ready homes that are available. And when you do see them, they're gone in like 2 or 3 days. So we're gonna give you, or rather I'm gonna be able to give you some really great tips on how to secure the home of your dreams in a hot market. What do you do in the Tucson housing market when it's like this? So I'm going to give you some tips that's going to be coming up next week. This week we're going to talk a little bit more about the cost involved. I thought about filming this episode now because I've been having this conversation with multiple folks coming in here today about what's the actual cost involved in buying a house in Arizona. So this is going to be generals, it's not going to be specifics. First, it's probably good to start with the different types of loans that are available. Now, of course, there are some specialty type loans, there are rural loans, there's a number of different little niche markets, but in general, there's just a few main loan types that most people use, okay? There's your standard conventional loan, used to be 20%, it's actually not anymore, it's 3% down. Then there's your VA loan if you're a veteran. Now that is a nice program because it's 0% down, which is fantastic. Then you have your FHA loan, which is often used for new home buyers, folks that don't have as established credit, or maybe you've had some, credit issues in the past, or it's your first home. That's a good way to go. 3% down, 3.5% down for an FHA loan. They're a little easier to get than the conventional loan. So that gives you a little sense of down payments. Most people think it's 20% and they have to have this huge chunk saved up, and it's really not like that anymore. And if you've been in Tucson at all for a little while or you visited, you know how expensive the rents are getting here right now, right? So rents are often more than a mortgage. Like let's say your rent would be $1,200, a mortgage on a place might be like $950 or $1,000. So sometimes it behooves people, if they have the spare cash to do repairs and maintenance on the home, just to buy a house or a condo. You can even buy a townhome sometimes for $90,000, $70,000, and your mortgage is like $500 to $700 a month, which is way less than your rent would be. And you only need to own a home for a few years. We typically say 5, but the market is so fast here right now, we're saying 2 or 3 to actually sell and get the equity out of it, even after the fees. But it's really specific to the type of property, the area. Like one place might double in 10 years, in value in 20 years, and a mile down the street, 20 years later, the home hasn't really changed much. So that's why you got to really research those areas really well. You can look at the sales history in the areas, et cetera, et cetera. That's what a realtor can help you with. So back to the loans. 0% down for VA, 3.5 conventional, and FHA. And that's all you need to put down. That's on the full purchase price. Like if it's $100,000, you put down $3,000 or $3,500 or 0 if it's a VA, right? Now, there are really cool down payment assistance programs here in town too. Sometimes you have to pay a slightly higher interest rate and you have to live in the home for 5 years, but then they will give you sometimes 4, 5, 10% of the whole entire home value. That's $4, $5, $10,000 on a $100,000 home. They'll give it to you as a down payment. So you just have to talk to a lender, financial advisor, and it's free to talk to them and realtors. Just use all the free services you can to get your portfolio and your finances in the best shape. It's my advice. But anyway, so if you talk to a lender, they will help you figure out if it's better to put a little money down and have a lower interest rate, or if it's better to take advantage of one of those down payment assistance programs if you qualify. Sometimes you can make like $78,000 a year and still qualify. It just depends on area of town and your credit score and different factors. But this is all good information to talk to a lender about. So fees for buying, down payment, right? Now, in Arizona, when you go to offer on a house, what you do when you really want a house is you say, I'm going to give you 1 to 2% of the value of this house as earnest money to let you know I'm really serious. And I want you to take this home off the market so I can investigate everything about it top to bottom. Now, if I don't have contractors in the family, if I'm not a contractor, if I want a third-party opinion, which I always recommend, I'm gonna then, as a buyer, hire all these experts for this 10-day free period to check out this house for me. After I've given you 1 to 2%. Now, you don't actually give it to the seller or the realtor. You give it to the title company. That's the third party that transfers the home from them to you and holds all the finances. They're like the impartial third party that makes sure everything goes down squarely and fairly with the money and the deed name. And that comes off the down payment. So let's say you're buying a $100,000 house and you need to put 3% down. That's $3,000. You might give them $1,000 to $2,000 in earnest money, that's 1 to 2%, and say, please take the home off the market for me while I investigate it and see if I want to buy it. If you do decide to move forward and buy it after that, that 1 to 2% goes towards your down payment of 3%. So then when you go to close, if you put down 2 on a $100,000 house, you might only owe $1,000 more, right? So that's money to figure out, right? So just figure 3% unless you're a veteran or unless you're doing a grant program for down payment, 3.5%. Some of that you're going to need up front to give them as earnest money. So they will basically agree to sell it to you if you want to buy it. You get 10 free days to investigate the home, after which you have a lot of options. And we're going to go over in a special episode on inspections. We're also going to be talking to sewer scope specialists who check for tree roots. We're going to be talking to roofers, home inspectors, termite inspectors. We're going to be talking to structural engineers. We're going to talk to all the specialists out there that are at your disposal. You don't have to use, if you know stuff, you can look at it yourself and sign a waiver saying, I don't need a third-party opinion, I sign off on this home. But we always advise, unless you're a specialist or you can be really unbiased about your own house, it's better to have someone else check it out, right? So you're factoring about 3%. And realtors, do you have to pay for your realtor in Arizona? No, you do not have to pay for your realtor. Sometimes brokerages charge like a $100 or $200 fee, sometimes they don't. For the most part, sellers will always pay for realtors. But it's important to check out to make sure the seller you're working with will cover your realtor's fees. Because you don't want to have to be saddled with that. That's usually like 3% or 2.5% or something. It varies, everything varies, but industry standards is about 3 in Arizona. So, and then you're going to have the costs of the professionals you hire during the inspection, right? A typical home inspector, $300 to $400 maybe on a starter home that's like, 1,500 square feet or something, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But as you go up in square footage, it's going to cost a little more because they're going to be there, right, all day. So they could be there 2 hours for a regular sized Arizona 3-2 home that's like $200,000, or they could be there all day if your home is like 4,000 to 5,000 square feet and has like a casita and a pool and everything. So, but typically that's the most expensive inspection. I would say average 300 to 400, and then it can go up. I've seen them like 700, 1,000 if you have like a giant house, okay? Termite inspectors. Some of your loans are going to require a termite inspection. That's typically 70 to 100 bucks, right? And you definitely want to get a home inspected for termites here in Arizona. We will get into that more when we're talking to the pest control specialist, why that is so. So stay tuned for that. And roof inspections are typically free. Professional roofers will come out and give you their opinion. You can get several. In addition to the home inspector, we'll take a cursory look at that. Depending on the age of the home inspector might recommend that you do a sewer scope and check for tree roots if there's old galvanized piping, or that you have an HVAC inspection if it's an older unit or an older heater, or that you check out the electrical panel because it looks like a little funky and he's not sure it's up to code anymore. So you utilize that 10 days and get all those inspections. I say on an average size house, budget like 700 or 800 bucks for inspections, and you may not need it all. So, and if your home's very large or intricate, you may spend a little more than that. Biggest expense, maybe there's foundational cracking and it's atypical, which the home inspector can help you figure out, like not normal for the age of the home, and you're worried about a foundation shifting, which, you know, there are situations that happen with soil erosion and things like that that's totally normal and can be remedied. It doesn't necessarily rule the house out if you're okay dealing with it, but you got to find out from a structural engineer, can you repair it? What's the cost? Can you ask the seller to do this? Do you need to? And sometimes those guys are like $600 or $800 to come out and look at your place, sometimes less. So just factor like $1,000 or less. You know, usually it's like $600, $800, a little more depending on unique situations. I'm going to write some of those figures below this video and link you to some of the folks that a lot of my clients have used and been happy with here for different types of inspections if you have further questions. And we'll do a whole segment on that and be talking to them though. So just figure, unless you're a veteran or getting a down payment assistance program, 3%, some of it going down up front as earnest money, and maybe $1,000 or less for home inspections. And that's about it, right? So the only other fees involved are closing costs on your loan. Typically there is a 3%, 2.5%, 2% if you have a good lender loan origination fee that lenders charge just to loan you the money. Sometimes they charge as much as 6%. So this is going to be an episode in itself. Please investigate loan origination fees. Most people, if you're not in the industry, you think, I'm paying them interest, isn't that enough? No. Lenders charge an origination fee just to do the loan for you. Then they sell your loan in bulk, usually to a bank, unless you're getting it from a direct lender who's doing it themselves. And that person who's gonna service your loan then is the one who gets the commission. But the person who originated your loan gets charged a fee. Even if you purchase with a direct lender, they still charge a loan origination fee. Ideally 2.5%, 3%, sometimes like 6%. Watch out for those, just my advice. Check your loan origination fees. But in Arizona, the cool thing is those factor into your closing costs, like title fees, cost of transferring the deed, all that stuff. All that factors into your closing costs. In Arizona, lots of times you can ask the seller to pay those. About 40% of deals in Arizona get done where the sellers agree to pay a buyer's closing costs, which could be 3.5% or something. So that's really helpful. Typically you'll offer more onto the property than you would normally, maybe even going over asking price, so you don't have to come up with as much cash and it comes out of their proceeds. Now, I know this has been a lot, so let's just boil it down to basics and then we can wrap this up. I try and do 1-minute videos, but it's like, how do you convey all this in 1 minute unless you talk like an auctioneer? Like, I don't know. So basically, here we are. 3% down, some of that going to earnest, 1,000 or less for repairs, possible 3% for closing costs, but you may be able to ask the seller for that. So you're looking at about 6% if you cover your own stuff, and then some home inspections. Now, if you get on one of the down payment assistance programs or VA, and you ask the seller to come up and cover your closing costs, you can get in just for the cost of your inspections. That's right. You could buy a house for less than $1,000. And the cool thing is that first month you pay that mortgage, it skips a month. So you even get a month free where you get to live somewhere and you spent like $800 and you own a home. I mean, it's pretty darn cool. So there's a whole mess of ways to do this. That's what I'm here. That's what your lender here is for, to help you figure it out. But it gives you a sense, right? Worst case scenario, 6% maybe with some inspections. Best case scenario, nothing with some inspections. And your situation will fall somewhere in there. The typical situation is like 3 to 5%. So of what you're purchasing. So just think about that. We do tons of deals here where people do not put down very much money at all. Cost of living is really low in Arizona. So the government and private lenders trying to make it really affordable. We would rather have homeowners here than renters for a number of economic reasons that is just hard to get into. So, and there's always people where renting's a better situation for you. So it's like 30–40% of the population, 50% rents, and about half own. And that's just the way it is. It's what's good for all of us in our situations and stuff. But I know home ownership is something that's good for the economy in multiple ways, which we'll get into when we talk to a home ownership specialist with the government later on in one of our cool episodes. Okay, I'm done. 15 minutes, oh my Lord. I'm trying to keep it to 1 and maybe 5. So you guys are gonna have to help me. Leave suggestions in the comments. Please, maybe I shouldn't get into as much depth, I don't know. Please like, please subscribe, hit the little bell if you want to get notifications in your emails. Please share, and please tune back in. If I can help you with any of your housing needs, you can reach me on my email attached to this YouTube account. You can comment below. You can reach out to me directly on one of my websites that has my direct cell. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend and happy 4th of July. Bye, guys.